Yeah, hi everyone. Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah, I hope so. Um, yeah, good. I'll start. Thanks everyone for attending this. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Luis. Um, yeah, thanks for participating in this webinar. My name is Roosevelt. I'm a principal lawyer here in No Borders Law Group, Sydney. And the topic of today is your pathway to PR, transitioning from a work visa to a permanent residency. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Alana. Okay, so we can go to the next slide. Thank you. That's just a brief summary of our company and our founder, director. So No Borders, we a law firm and also we employ migration agents at the same time. Has been No Border has been proudly serving clients for 27 years. So we had our 25th anniversary in 2023. That's our founder there and director. She came to Australia and Hungary in 1987 and established branches around Australia, including Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, and South Australia as well. So we offer a range of services, not only migration. Um, and yeah, we're here to help. Next slide. So yeah, that's about our group, No Borders Law Group. So we formed our law group in 2022. And like I said, we offer assistance in commercial law, employment law, migration law, and property law. Yeah, next slide. Thank you, Aaron. So yeah, sorry, I'm just gonna close this because it's on my way. Okay, perfect. Um, skill migration. So the key discussions for today is we're just going to have an overview of the 482 visas, of 482 of the 2025 updates. So key changes to the 482 visa program, main pathways to PR, 186 and direct entry stream. We also touch a bit about 494 and 191. Eligibility requirements as well, age, skill, and English language for criteria for PR, and how can we help? Okay, next slide. 482 visa. So the 482 visa is the more is also known as the sponsorship visa. It allows skilled workers to work in Australia for an approved employer for a specific role, and it's a temporary visa for up to 4 years. Okay. Yep. Next slide. Um, Yep, you can skip that one as well. Thank you. So the key points for the 482 visa is that now all 482 visa holders are eligible for PR. So at around December last year, the government introduced a new list of occupations, and that list it's way bigger than it used to be. And include a lot of new occupations that weren't on the list at all. And it it stopped with that. It actually extended pathway PR to every single occupation on the list. So as long as you're on the list, you have a pathway to PR, right? So he also last year was the PI eligibility was reduced from 3 to 2 years. So like I said, you no longer need to be on the certain list to apply for PR, and also you only need to be working for an employer for 2 years as opposed to 3, right? So some, like I said, some 482 visa holders couldn't apply for PR, but after the changes, they can now. And there's still some legacy 457 visa holders around that they're still eligible for it. Okay, yeah, next slide. So why transition to PR? PR allows individuals to live and work anywhere in Australia without restrictions. Um, there are also health benefits in become a permanent resident. You can have access to Medicare and other healthcare services. Um, you can also potentially in the future sponsor family members. And there is a pathway to citizenship after 4 years. Okay. Yep. Uh, yeah. The changes were around the 42 visa requirements. Like I said, created a bigger list with more occupations. Um, occupations that were for many years off the list. Um, um, I'm just gonna admit someone here just letting join now. So occupations that were off the list for years were now introduced and part of the program. Um, this list was created in conjunction with the Job Skills Australia. So they conduct a thorough survey in the Australian local market and identify skill gaps and skill shortage. Sorry, for certain occupations. There are still some criticism around because unfortunately they leave out and that's more that's specifically related to the hospitality industry. They left out the restaurant manager and cafe or restaurant manager, which was got everyone by surprise because I mean, working in this industry for many years, I can see the hospitality industry does struggle to recruit chefs and cooks and restaurant managers as well. So they kept chefs and cooks on the list, but for some reason remove restaurant managers. Um, but they have made there are they made other choices, which it was like they introduced new IT occupations because the IT world uh, the, changes all the time. So they trying to keep the list up to date. So that was good news. But unfortunately for the hospitality industry, that occupation was removed. Yeah, next slide. Um, yeah, like I said, no matter, and there is one list now. Also for applicants who were in a list that didn't have a pathway before are now since last year are eligible to apply for PR once they work for the same employer for 2 years. Um, so there was also a reduction on the work experience requirement. Before for the 482 visa was 2 years, and they reduced to 1 year full-time work experience required, right? Um, and the advantages of reducing the 2 year from 2 years from 3 years to 2 years is that this change accelerates the pathway to PI, especially for workers already employed for unapproved sponsors. So when they create these create these different lists and separate for true visa holders that had a pathway for PR for those who didn't. Um, there was there was a big cry from the industry, especially like you can see, and that's around 2017 when like marketing specialist, sales and marketing manager could not apply for PR. So that was something that was never, really accepted by the industry as fair. So they fixed that, and now um, all these occupations have a pathway for PR. The age limit still remains at 45. Um, uh, I still think that increasing that to 50 years was a better option, um, and that was before. I mean, that was around 2017 as well. Um, and I still don't agree with the fact that they reduced to 45 years of age. which is you can see a lot of experienced workers may only reach that peak at 50. We're talking about managing directors, CEOs, and etc. I know there are some exemptions around that, but even for other occupations that are not at that high level, then still you're 50 is you're still at your peak. So, but unfortunately, it is a requirement. So. Yep, next slide. So the 1A6, there is a lot of confusion around the 1A6. Um, with the 4A2, when you hold the 4A2 for at least 2 years, you can transition to PR, but you need to make a new visa application, and that's the 1A6, right? And the 1A6, they have two different streams, and the one that is relevant to this transition from a 4A2 to PR, it's the temporary residency transition, right? So yeah, next slide. So it is still an employed sponsored visa in a sense, but the employer is supporting an application for a visa, supporting an application for an employee to become a permanent resident in Australia, right? So the requirements in a nutshell are you must have worked with an employer for at least 2 years on the 482 visa. Your employer must nominate you for a permanent position in the business. And the job must be listed ideally on an eligible occupation list, which has been expanded in 2025. And also, because of all the changes as well, for this particular stream, the list is not so much relevant. Competent English and no skills assessment is needed unless it's mandatory. But not even, sorry, no skills assessment is needed. So it's a transition to PR, but it's still the employee is linked to an employer for that purpose. Yep. Just next slide, please. That's the other stream where, and that's called the direct stream. And that's what the confusion sometimes arise. The direct entry stream is that you don't need to be on a 482 visa for at least 2 years to apply for permanent residency. You can actually apply for permanent residency directly. But different requirements apply. So you need to have a skills assessment, minimum 3 years work experience, be under the age of 45, English requirements, competent English requirements, and health requirements are met. Before the changes that occurred last year, only certain occupations could apply for the 1A6 direct entry, and they were mostly IT professionals, health professionals, tradies, chef, and engineers. So it was a very selective list. With the changes in December, then they expand the 1A6 direct entry stream to every single occupation on the list now, which is the skill in demand list. So like your marketing specialists that could not apply directly for PR that had, I don't know, 8 years of experience, can now do it. So I think that was the most beneficial part of all the changes, that they realized that it's better just to have one list and everyone and that list be the base for the employed sponsor visas, instead of, these guys can apply for direct entry but these guys don't, and so just having one list And this list is reviewed it's going to be reviewed every year now. So the next review will be in July, but at this stage we don't have any information whether it's going to be any changes. Usually they flag some occupations that are under review. If anything, my experience is that they add more than remove. Um, but yeah, like it's a welcome change, that one, So like I said, your marketing specialist, your sales and marketing manager that couldn't do these things, um, and other guys as well. And sometimes even in IT, your data administrator, database administrator, and these guys that were on the short list before that, but now everything is combined in one list, so it's very welcome. Next slide. 494. 494 is still out there. It's a visa that I don't recommend necessarily after the changes that happened last year. Um, um, but it's a visa that you need to have a skills assessment, three years of works experience, post qualification, and competent English. So basically mirrors the criteria for the 1A6 direct entry. So it's better to apply for the 1A6 direct entry rather than going through a 494, unless that's the situation that is presented, and the benefit of the 494 is that it's just about processing. They tend to be way quicker than the other visas because they are in the regional area. So by default, the system allocate them for priority. But other than that, then it's a visa that when it comes to pathway to PR, you're looking at a 5-year journey, So yeah, not so great. And now that we have a bigger list, a more inclusive list, then it's becoming more and more obsolete. So eventually they might even discontinue the program. That's my opinion. Yeah, next slide. Points test. 189, 190, and 491s. This is different from what we discussed before. The ones that we discussed before, we discussed so far, are employed sponsor visas. These are independent skilled visas, so you don't need an employer supporting you. Um, for the point of view of the visa applicant, this is great, right? Because you can apply independently, and don't need necessarily to be sponsored. However, then it has been limited to really few occupations on the list in reality, right? And the number of invitations sent are not great. So we were fortunate to have clients to be invited for those visas, but they're from really certain occupations that are in demand, So looking perhaps teachers, nurses, and those guys. So it's yeah, and yeah, and it has the effect about you need to be invited to apply for it. So yeah, that's the problem. That's the issue with this. So it's not something that you apply actively. You can't go tomorrow in the IM account, which is the visa system, and lodge an application for these visas without being invited by the government first. So you all independent on then invite you, which is that's my concern, So while it's a valid option to many people, it's not for everybody. And around COVID, a lot of people went to regional areas with the impression that they were going to be invited for those visas and etc. Move around Australia, and nothing really happened. So you really need to be on top of what's happening before you jump into those visas and expect, especially if you have a visa expire date, like your visa expires in 2 months. I would not count in being invited by the department unless you are, from the occupations that our experience tells that you have a great chance of being invited, and we tell them on our free assessments. Next slide, please. So requirements is skills assessment as well. It's a points test. So minimum score is 65, but most occupations require a higher score than that. And you are invited to apply. So the department now published a minimum score required for invitation per occupation. So that gives you an idea of your chances of obtaining one. So, and unfortunately, it's very competitive unless you are in those areas of need. Like I said. Yeah. Next slide. Okay. Aid skills and English. There is no unless specific exemptions apply. So it needs to be under 45. Your occupation, it's a different list from the employed sponsor visas. So you need to be certain that your occupation is on the list, and English requirements as well. Competent English requirements at a minimum. Next slide, please. So yeah, potential challenges. Employers must still sponsor. So the employee sponsor visa pathway, despite being a quicker pathway to PR, applicants still need an employer who is willing to sponsor the transition. So it can be a barrier for some workers, especially in industry, the higher turnover rates. Yeah, that would depend on a case by case basis. But yeah, like it depends on your. I always advise my clients to negotiate that part from the beginning when you get the temporary visa. You don't have to determine as to when, but at least with having that assurance that everything goes well, then that PR application will be applied in the end once the visa applicant qualifies. So English test validity, that's something that sometimes client leaves to the last minute. So that and it's strongly advised that you do it that you do it on the earliest opportunity that as possible to get this out of the way. Health waivers are complex. Some health waivers. Um, so some PR applications have an option to request a health waiver, and that is when the applicant, for a reason or the other, failed the health requirement. And they are complex, and the department's being changing their approach around that. That's becoming more inclusive. But there is a certain way to go about these health waivers, and we are fortunate enough to have worked with a lot of health waivers in the last few years. So, time your eligibility and visa expires. It's crucial to time the application process carefully. Yeah, that's very crucial, including. I'll give an example. Every 1st of July, the department fees go up. So I don't know if you're gonna qualify. If you qualify for PI in June, but you leave to August, you're gonna end up spending more money. So it's always good to have that from when you get your 482 visa. And again, knowing what it will affect your PR application as well once you get the visa. So for instance, like unpaid leaves and certain things that can affect your eligibility. That's why you need to have that migration advice and from when you get the visa, when you get the 482 visa, so you know what to do and so everything can go smooth towards PR. Next slide. Yeah, how can we help? We offer our clients free assessments um, and to check the eligibility for PR, including for employed sponsor visas. And we assess both employers and employees, right? Yeah, next slide. Okay, that's the Q&A session now. I know that there was a question there. I was posted on the, just can't see it right now. Okay. Anyone has a question? Okay. Look, we like I said before, if you are an employer here and you're attending this webinar, age limits, yeah, age limits for DAMA. The DAMA program wasn't really discussed here because it requires more it requires a specific advice for it, right? Some DAMA programs might have the age limits of 55. Some might be just 50, depending on the occupation, depending on which regional area your DAMA program is. The DAMA is the designated. It's a regional designated program that give employees and visa applicants concessions, and that can goes um, uh, for age, English, and work experience, right? We have worked with DAMAs in Queensland, New South Wales, and South Australia. So it's a labor it's an agreement that you get into with the government, and in exchange for sponsoring certain occupations that are in need in these areas, you are allowed to. There are some age concessions, salary concessions, and so on. So it really depends on which area you're applying for. If you're looking for DAMA programs, first of all, and if you have a job offer from an employer from a regional area, and regional area means anywhere in Australia except Sydney, Melbourne, or Brisbane. So if you have a job offer from an employer from those areas, or if you're an employer in a regional area, you feel free to contact us. We can provide more information about it and see and check your eligibility. Okay. All right. If we don't have any more questions, as well, we also offer. We haven't discussed this, but we also have worked in labor agreements, which is occupations that are not on the list can still be. You still have the option to be sponsored. But that's something as well that we offer a free assessment, and we can discuss and check the eligibility requirements for employers and visa applicants. I think that's it. Unless anyone has any more questions, then that's fine. I'll move to the next one. This is our QR code. If you are interested to book a free assessment, and all assessments are free. And if you we can assess your eligibility for one of the employees visa programs, for the points test visa programs, and if you have a job offer, or if you're an employer from a regional area as well, we can check eligibility for them and so on. Okay. All right. I think this is all that I have to say today. Thank you so much for your time, and make yourself available to attend this webinar. And feel free to reach out to us so we can discuss your situation further. Okay. All right. That's our contact details, email right there. But we also if you can reach out via website too. So just you can go to our website and request a free assessment to speak to one of our consultants. All right. Thank you everybody. And looking forward to have our next webinar.